Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome once again to the TangentCast. I'm finally starting to feel a bit better after over a week of getting ravaged by this cough, so that's good. How have you been?
not getting ravaged.
That's always good.
Hmm.
Anything other than that?
Playing games, editing, crying internally.
So the usual then.
Pretty much.
Speaking of games, what games have you been playing?
Now, that's a good question.
It is.
It's a very good question. Pertinent to the discussion, if you will.
Yes.
I've been playing I Am Setsuna. Setsuka, whatever the hell. And I have been playing, just started again, Parasite Eve on the PlayStation.
So have your thoughts changed at all on Setsuna since we last spoke about it?
Really enjoying it, but I don't think, if I had to rate it, and I'm only about, I don't know how many hours I am, but let's just say I'm about a dozen-ish, I'd probably give it maybe a 7 out of 10.
That's still a fairly good rating.
Yeah, it has a few weak points. I do feel it's a bit grindy at times, in terms of like having to trudge back from one location to another.
Right.
But the big issue I've got is that the enemies can be frustrating as hell. Like, there's a lot of enemies that put status effects even quite early on in the game.
Oh, that's not fun.
No, I'm just like, no. I don't mind bosses so much, but regular enemies, it pisses me off when they put status effects on.
Or it should be a special type of enemy or something.
Yeah, I agree. So as usual, we're giving cats attention. And,
so, Parasite Eve then?
Yeah, I never played the original, which I know sounds insane, but I played the second one.
Right.
And really enjoying it. I'm quite early on, of course. But I'm quite enjoying it. It's, one of those titles I really wanted to play, as well as the original Dino Crisis and Dino Crisis 2, I think it was, on the PlayStation. I played Dino Crisis 2, but I missed out on 1, I believe.
Yeah, I think most people played Dino Crisis 2. But
I also want to play Deep Fear on the Sega Saturn. It's very much in the esque of a Resident Evil.
Well, yeah, never heard of that one, to be honest.
Yeah, it's on the Saturn. And I also want to play a couple of other RPGs at the moment.
You're very on an RPG kick at the minute.
I'm on the mood to play a lot of games. Unfortunately, this month is coming to like Mr. Death category.
Yeah, the quiet period is coming to an end, and we are entering the period of oh god, make it stop.
Yeah.
As for myself, game-wise, I've been playing Inside, which I won't spoil, so if you're still playing it, don't worry. I haven't finished it yet myself. I'm probably about an hour-ish in, maybe an hour and a half. And it's really, really good. If you liked Limbo, you'll probably like this, to be honest.
Rating out of 10 so far?
Give it an 8 from what I've played.
That's cool.
I mean, it's really good. It's better than Limbo in some ways. And
You talk about Inside, I'll just play with Bonnie the cat.
Yeah.
I like playing with Pussy, what can I say?
Yeah, I mean, the story is still pretty sort of, hey, you have to figure it out yourself kind of thing, but it's more in the forefront than it was for Limbo. So there is that. And as well as that, I've played a little bit of We Happy Few, which, to be honest, is not what I was expecting. And I think that's the case for a lot of people. Like, came out in early access and like, oh, it's
not what I
it's a
expected
game
at all.
with survival mechanics where you have to worry about your sleep and your thirst and hunger meters. And I'm just like, that is not how it came across at E3 or
I expected a
at all.
BioShock kind of game.
Yeah, like, I wasn't expecting a first-person shooter, but I was expecting like a BioShock-style experience, like narrative-focused, story explory kind of game. And I'm sure there is going to be that. There isn't any story at the moment in the build that's available to people, so there is that. The only story is what you saw at E3 with the trailer, and then after that you just kind of let loose into the world. But, I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm disappointed, because again, I've not played very much and it is still early access, so it's an alpha. It's going to change a lot before it comes out. It's still not what I expected, so it was a bit like, oh okay then. There was an initial moment of like, oh really? Okay, alright then. So there's that. That's what I've been playing, and a bit of Yeast Origin as well. playing this and that this week. Ys Origin is very good. I bought it like forever and a day ago on Steam, and finally decided, you know what, I'm going to install it.
How far are you through?
Well, let's have a look, shall we?
That's
the wrong one.
I was going to say, apparently they've renamed it.
About 3 hours.
Okay.
So there we go.
Although, on the other hand, the Steam time is not always accurate.
Well, no, it's not probably not 100% accurate, but about 3 hours sounds about right.
Okay.
So, yeah. So, let's move swiftly on to topics. We've got quite a few things this week. So, do you want to start with the Nintendo NX? There's quite a few things about that this week.
Yeah, I do.
Take the lead.
Okay. So, I'm just going to assume that everyone knows that, of course, the NX is Nintendo's new console.
I think we can safely assume that most people know that, yeah.
Well, there's been a lot of speculations,
mm-hmm.
a lot of rolling around with the forkball, if you will, regarding the NX. And basically, it's a portable system
mm-hmm.
that has a docking station. Now, it's based upon...
Well, allegedly, we should say. This is not official.
So, it's based upon the Tegra architecture,
mm-hmm.
Which is from NVIDIA, of course. So, it's using... Currently, the development models are using the original Tegra, but it's not passively cooled. It's using a fan, which is unlike the regular Tegra.
Mm-hmm.
And there's questions of whether eventually it's going to move to the Tegra 2 model.
Right.
So if it does, it's obviously going to have a beefy upgrade in performance.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I don't actually hate the idea of, look, you've got a powerful home console that's about as powerful or slightly more powerful than the Xbox One.
Well, it's not. Not with the original Tegra, nowhere near.
Well, let's say it has the X2.
Right.
Would it be then?
Probably not quite, but it's going to be closer.
Around that margin, would you say?
I don't know, to be honest.
Well,
it depends on the rest of the system. We don't know the rest of the system.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, this could all be wrong, but let's just say this is true. You've got a system that's, decently powerful. It's not going to be hugely powerful. They said they're not going for power.
I mean, for example, one of the specs they've not even mentioned is how much RAM it's got.
Yeah, so obviously, again, all this could change or be wrong or whatever. So, but the base concept of a powerful enough machine, because Nintendo, they don't do AAA shiny graphics. They usually do cartoony graphics. So there's that. So you've got a fairly powerful home system that can be undocked from like a docking station thing and then take it as like a tablet style arrangement, I guess.
It's going to be basic. Think of PS Vita, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't actually hate that idea. That actually sounds pretty cool.
Like, one idea that I had is that the NX, when it's plugged into the docking station, might have higher clock speeds, which means theoretically the graphics would be better or resolution would be better. So, for example, let's say that the clock speed is like, I'm just throwing a number out there, like 100 megahertz. Obviously, it's going to be much faster than that, but let's just say it's 100 when it's not docked. It might go to 125 when it is docked, because obviously power is less of a concern, which would make sense given the high screen resolutions of like a HD
well,
TV.
I think if this is what they're doing, that's probably how it's going to work. Obviously, when you undock it and take it on the go, it's going to be a damn powerful handheld, but it's still going to be a handheld at the end of the day.
I mean,
and then when you dock it, you get that extra power, and obviously you have the ability to just put it through your TV, and you've got the controllers that are, I would assume, attached to the docking station, and then you just pull them out, and there you go.
Yeah, it's an interesting.
I mean, I don't hate the idea. It sounds cool because the idea of playing like Zelda on the go appeals to me. However, I'm a bit concerned because, well, the whole tablet style thing hasn't really worked for them, has it? And it might be a bit too close to the Wii U for comfort.
To be honest, that's not what actually bothers me. What bothers me is I do wonder what's going to happen if the performance levels aren't quite up to the Xbox One. I mean, with the Scorpio and everything else coming out, I do wonder if there's a market for it. I mean...
Well, yeah, I mean...
For people... See, the fact of the matter is, what concerns me is, like, let's say, and I'm just throwing numbers out there, let's say it ends up being 25% slower than the current Xbox, just for example, the Xbox One. And obviously we don't know anything nowhere near enough about the specifications to even guesstimate that that's true, but let's just assume it is. What concerns me is that people are already lambasting the Xbox One and the PS4 for shitty graphics or low resolution, low frame rate. In a world which is, by the time this comes out, which is going to be March, right?
Mm-hmm.
It won't be too long away.
Scorpio comes out that holiday, and probably the Neo as well.
Well, Neo is supposedly this year, but whether it does or not, by that point...
If it was going to come out this year, they will announce it soon.
Yeah, but even if not, let's assume that the Neo is pushed back 6 months.
Yeah.
And it comes out roughly the time of the Scorpio. To a lot of people, it's like, let's say you've got a current Xbox One, you've got the choice...
You're going to get the Scorpio, probably.
Or you might go for the Neo.
Yeah, either way, you're probably not going to go for the NX... unless they have some seriously strong games.
Yeah, it's going to be the games.
I mean, the power is concerning, not for Nintendo's games, because, you know...
That's what I'm saying.
Nintendo's IPs is Zelda, Mario, Pokemon, all this. You don't need those horsepower to get those to look good. You don't. I mean, the Zelda that they showed at E3 looks really pretty. I assume that's the NX version we saw, because apparently the Wii U version has shocking performance problems. So it's not that worries me, it's the third-party support, which is one of the many things that killed the Wii U, was the lack of third-party support.
To give them their credit, though, Ubisoft and a few other companies have said it's a nice system, but what worries me is that that's all good, that's all nice, but in a world...
Words are free. Supporting a game on a system and porting it is not free.
No, exactly. And in a world where PCs now are getting closer to consoles in terms of the performance levels that you can achieve, with low-level APIs, meaning...
I think you mean the other way around, but
no,
point.
I mean that way. I mean, for example, you've got the ability to low-level code on PCs now, so you get much better performance out of low-level hardware.
Right, I see what you mean.
Yeah, and with Vulkan being easy to port to from DirectX 12, or vice versa, and Vulkan now being easy to port to GNM, which is the PlayStation DirectX.
Right.
That's our API.
Mm-hmm.
I know that for a fact, by the way, because of the interview with Tom Olsen and Neil Travitt from
Is that the one that's coming up?
Yeah, next day or two.
Right, okay.
It's probably actually up by the time you guys watch this podcast.
Probably, yeah.
So do check that out. And basically what I'm saying is that in that world where consoles have so much level of performance, though what is quite interesting is it is using Vulkan. So theoretically, well, I'm assuming it's going to be using Vulkan because Nintendo are part of the
I would
Chronos.
assume so. I would assume they would, yeah.
And the other reason I feel that they might is, you know how Pokemon Go and various other mobile apps are a thing?
Mm-hmm.
The rumours are that Nintendo are going to allow or start porting games from their mobile platforms, so for example the iOS store or whatever, to the NX, so it's going to be a cross-play situation.
That could be cool, yeah.
So what could happen is we could have this rather large ecosystem. It's just there's a lot of questions at the moment. So I'm looking forward to the NX.
I mean, to be honest, they need to just reveal what this thing is already.
Yeah.
Because it's coming out in March, and it's now basically August. I know it's a 31st of July time recording, but by the time you watch this, it's August.
Mm.
So they need to show us what it is soon. Because, you know, people want to know how much is it, what the specs, what kind of play on it, that sort of thing. I would imagine we get a reveal next couple of months, to be honest. If they haven't revealed it by the end of the year, I'll be surprised. And they're pushing their luck if they haven't. I'm surprised they haven't announced it already.
What I'd love to see is really strong launch games.
That's what they need, yeah. Yeah, I mean, obviously Zelda Breath of the Wild, if it is a launch game like we've been hearing, and I would assume it is, that's really strong. And I think for a lot of people that is going to be a system seller. But they need more than just Zelda. I mean, if they could bring Zelda and then... I mean, one way to improve the appeal of the NX would be to have backwards compatibility with the Wii U. Because then, people like myself who don't own a Wii U...
I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's got enough performance.
Well, let's just say that it does. Because then, you can say to people, look, you've got the new games, but you can also play Bayonetta 2 and Pokken Tournament.
I just don't think... I think at the best it's going to have the performance to emulate the GameCube, or possibly...
Well, I'm talking about emulation. I'm talking like actual backwards compatibility here.
They can't do that.
Why?
Because unless they're going to put the Wii U components inside, the only way would be emulation.
Well, I hope it does, because that would improve things a lot, I think.
And the only way they could possibly do that would be a game streaming service, but I don't think they've got the ecosystem to do that at the moment.
Well, we'll have to see, because we could be wrong about everything that we're saying here. We know so little about the machine.
Well, if it is based on Tegra, even if it's Tegra 2, it does not have the performance to emulate the Wii U. It at best could emulate probably a GameCube or the original Wii.
Yeah, I mean they've been pretty good about backwards compatibility so far, which is why I thought that it makes sense for them to do the Wii U, because the Wii could do the GameCube, and then the Wii U could do the Wii, etc.
But
So yeah, we've rambled on that for long enough. Let's move on, shall we? To a few things. Oh, there's one more Nintendo thing actually before we move on very, very quickly. Is that Nintendo released their Q1 financial year figures for this 2016, and they posted the largest quarterly loss in 5 years.
Sounds healthy.
Yeah, and while undoubtedly some of that can be put at the door of the research and development for the NX, it's just still not good. 5 years.
Yeah, but they've got so much damn cash in reserve.
I mean, I'm not saying they're going to declare bankruptcy tomorrow, because obviously this is Nintendo, but it's still not good that they're losing this much money.
No, not ideal.
So, yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that while we're on the topic. But another thing is about Prey, and obviously this was one of the cooler releases, or reveals should I say, from Bethesda's conference at E3.
Yeah, it looked really cool.
And it looked so different from the original Prey, so we kind of figured out...
Off topic, did you like that?
Like what? The original Prey?
Yeah.
I didn't actually play it, I've just seen like gameplay and stuff of it, but even then I could tell this is...
No, I mean, so you've never played the original Prey?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Have you?
Yeah.
Right.
Not all the way through, but
I've seen it, I've seen a lot of it, but I've never actually played it myself, no. But I don't have to play it to know that the new one's so different. So we kind of figured out that it's not a sequel, it's kind of like a reboot thing. But basically, Arcane said that it's not a sequel or a remake, and it has no tie with the original. They called it a reimagining of the IP. So I'm just like, well, a reboot then.
Yeah, basically.
So it's just a reboot. It's basically what it is. And they worded it in this really flowery way, and it's like okay, it's a reimagining of the IP, so a reboot then.
Yeah, basically. It's like, you say it potato.
I say shut up.
Exactly. I say know your role, shut your mouth.
What's that thing from The Simpsons we were watching? Life is hard, right? Mm-hmm. Wrong! Life is easy, you suck!
I love that.
That's so great.
Life is easy, you suck! I love that.
So yeah, I mean, nothing really new revealed, other than the fact that it's not going to be out until 2017, which we kind of guessed, already. But I'm really interested to see what Arcane have in store for us with Prey. To be honest, they said it's going to have like an RPG layer, and it's going to have like stuff. I'm guessing like first-person horror shooty thing with RPG mechanics is probably what we're getting. But it still looks interesting, I have to say. So let's see.
PSVR, I guess.
Yes. We now know how much space the PlayStation VR requires, and it's a lot, to be honest. I am toying with the idea of cancelling the pre-order that I have on it, because you need 60 square feet of clear space.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So, it's like, obviously it isn't just the PlayStation VR that has this. Like, the Rift has it, and the Vive obviously has it with the room scale. But 60 square feet is a lot. And then what they say is you need 60 square feet of clear space. And then they advise a bit more than that as well.
So really you're looking at 70 to 80.
I don't know about 80, but they probably mean like 65. They just mean like an extra bit of clearance. Basically, they don't want to be sued because someone walked over and tripped over their coffee table while they were playing PlayStation VR. It's basically what this is.
Right.
In my opinion, at least. But, my worry is like... Yeah, there's a lot of PS4s out there, but how many of them are in massive living rooms?
A lot of them are in bedrooms, or
a lot of them are in bedrooms,
or even a small apartment,
or even just like a flat or a small house.
I was going to say in Japan that's going to be very interesting because of the amount of people who are living in. I mean, look at Tokyo with the apartments.
Yeah, I was going to say like houses and so on in Japan are generally not huge.
Especially in Tokyo because of the... I mean, you've seen the size of some of their apartments, right?
Yeah, so there's that. And obviously, like, you could even just have a family. So you, like, 60 square feet of clear space when you've got, like, 5 or 6 people living in the house.
Well, you can kill them and then
Yeah,
live in
you
virtual
could,
reality.
but then you'd be in prison and you can't play in your VR headset. So...
Well, you could ask for a cell that's 60 feet.
You'd be... I don't think they're going to give you a PS4.
Depends how many people you kill. If you kill enough of them, they might.
I don't know. I don't think that's how it works.
Well, it worked for the Joker, I'm sure.
Yeah, but he doesn't actually exist, so he doesn't count.
Well, that's something for readers to aspire, or viewers to aspire to.
So, yeah. I mean, I'm not really surprised that it requires a lot of space. This is kind of a thing with VR. But it's a little bit disappointing still.
It is, but I was kind of expecting... I was expecting about 40.
Yeah, it's a 60 square feet of clear space, and it's like you have to make sure the play area is completely clear. But the weird thing is, they also say that it's a seated experience. So I'm like, okay, if it's a seated experience, why do you need so much room? That's what's weird to me.
That's weird. Anyway.
So, I don't know, it's very strange. We also have some info on the Titan X that you discussed. I believe it was yesterday.
Yeezum.
You want to enlighten the listeners?
Sure.
Go on then.
So basically, it has roughly in synthetic benchmarks, which is the keyword, synthetic.
Do you want to perhaps explain what that means?
In other words, it's not necessarily indicative of real-world scenarios that are running the same applications.
Right.
So, for example, 3D Mark is synthetic. Or let's say, I don't know, an application to calculate up to the pi is synthetic, because how often are you just going to randomly start calculating up until the x, y, or z of pi just because? So yeah, basically synthetic benchmark. It's roughly twice as fast as the previous generation
of Titans.
Yeah.
Right.
My problem with it though is, essentially, it's still 90 flops of computing performance, and I refer here to the gaming performance with the 1080, and this is 11. So for gaming performance, you're only looking at, and I'm roughly, going for like 20% up increase for twice the price.
Yeah, that's what gets me. It's like, okay, yeah, it's pretty much double the speed of the previous Titan, but when you got the 1080 on the market, it's like, would you really buy a Titan when you could just buy a 1080?
It's really down to the clock speed, because 1700, I'm rounding it up, it's 1700 megahertz, 115. So it's like the Titan just doesn't have the clock speed.
Yeah.
So it's like...
It's very expensive considering.
Yeah, as I said, you can literally get two 1080s for the price of one Titan X. And yes, it's got the prosumer market, so as I said, folks who need the double precision or whatever, assuming it's going to be impressive. But other than that...
Yeah, I mean... For the price, it's not really that great. I mean,
for gaming,
was it $1,200 or something? The
dollars.
Price? Yeah, $1,200. That's a lot of money.
It is.
I don't think many gamers are going to go for that. I think, to be honest, if you've got the cash to really get a high-powered GPU, just get the 1080. Get two of them. You just smash the Titan X into the ground.
Then again, you could always get two Titan X's, but that's like $2,500.
Yeah, I was gonna say like two 1080s is a lot of money. That would be about what, $1,400 roughly.
No, it's $1,200. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
it's literally half the price of the Titan.
Yeah, so $1,200 to get two 1080s and completely pile drive the Titan X into the ground.
There are a few caveats, however. Some games don't always support SLI.
True, but even if you just did it with one 1080, it's not exactly weak. You know.
I mean, to be honest, for my money,
I would not buy a Titan, even if I could afford it. It's not worth the money.
I would rather get a custom 1080, one of the water block ones, or get a ridiculously powerful air-cooled one, get two of those if I had the money, and go from there.
Yeah, like, even if I had the money, I would not buy a Titan X, because just because you've got money doesn't mean you should like throw it away when you're not getting value for that money, at least in my opinion.
Circus of values.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, we also have more graphics card stuff with the 460 and the 470 getting their official specs.
Yeah, they're actually really looking nice cards.
I have to say, considering they're like, what, $100, $120 or something?
100, 150.
Yeah. So you've got $100 and $150.
And $179 if you want the 8GB 470, but I think that's a waste of cash.
And considering how basically free they are, they're pretty damn impressive, I have to say.
I honestly feel that the 470 is the sweet spot. I feel that the 470 8GB is too expensive. You might as well go for the 480.
Yeah.
And the Polaris 10 460 is a good card for, the enthusiasts who need a portable-based PC.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, let's say you're playing League of Legends competitively and you want to take your own setup.
Right.
So you want a small form factor-based PC. Or if you want to do mobile streaming, let's say streaming or whatever. So, for example, let's say you want a Netflix machine in the living room or what have you. But I honestly feel from this 470, it's really good value for money. Because it has no competition. It's really cheap. It's much cheaper than even the 480. It's around $70-ish, $80 cheaper. And is more than enough for most 1080p experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, when I was looking over the specs for the video that I did a while back, I was quite impressed, actually.
Yeah.
For someone who wants to get into PC gaming cheaply, but still get pretty decent performance and resolution, I mean, you can't really go wrong with either of them, to be honest.
You can't. I mean,
$100 for a GPU is insane.
I mean, the 470, that's enough performance to run the Batman, that's enough performance to run, basically Tomb Raider or any game. And you might be able to max it out at 60 FPS at 1080p, but you're going to be able to do a pretty damn good job and make it look better than the PlayStation 4.
Well, you just run it on high and you'd probably be fine, to be honest.
Yeah, basically.
So, another thing to, I guess, wrap us up possibly. We'll see how it goes. But one thing is that Tim Sweeney's at it again.
He tends to be.
And he's not letting up. He's not giving Windows 10 a chance to be like, no, make it stop. Because he's basically saying that Microsoft are going to force patch Windows 10 to make Steam progressively worse over time. And basically force people to go to Windows Store. And he's basically just saying, like, look, they're already making the Windows 10 OS a sort of walled garden, as it were, with UWP and everything else. Like, he seems unimpressed with the sort of reasonings and also the promises for improvements that Microsoft have said regarding UWP and the Windows Store. And he's basically saying that if Microsoft have their way, we're looking at a closed garden PC gaming world, which is not great considering the reason we have the hardware and the games that we have now and the software is because it's so open.
Yeah, it actually should be a bit of a worry for Microsoft's partners. When you talk about AMD or what have you as well.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit anybody except Microsoft, as far as I can tell.
It doesn't. I mean,
obviously this is just like a hypothetical, and in this scenario, Valve are not just going to sit there and let Microsoft do this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They need to get off their ass and really start pushing SteamOS a lot harder. I do feel, however, that the Vulkan will improve that a lot. And as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, go back, give us more viewing minutes. That you should... basically, I like the fact that there should be a lot of ease of portability between the code. So, I mean, my whole thing is I'd love to see a world where, for gamers, Vulkan or SteamOS would just be easy to bang, bang.
So, can I ask you a question then?
You can.
A while ago, quite some time ago now,
Yes.
there was a report that on SteamOS, the performance of a lot of games was significantly worse than that on Windows 10.
Right.
Would Vulkan solve that?
Long term, yeah. It obviously does depend on the ISVs, all of the vendors, the games developers, and everyone working together.
Right.
But in the words of the chaps who I was interviewing, Tom and Neil, they built a product not for their needs, but they built a product for what developers were asking them.
Yeah.
And not just developers either, AMD, Nvidia, all these companies.
Yeah.
And they even said that, look, Nvidia, AMD and all these companies are usually bitter rivals.
Yeah.
They're not exactly friendly terms with one another, and they don't exactly want to give hugs and kisses over Twitter. But with this, they were all working together to push the platform because they know that the extensible nature of Vulkan. I mean, it even works, of course, across mobile as well. And because Linux is essentially the backbone of Android.
Yeah.
Well, not Linux, but you know what I mean. Yeah, it all kind of comes together.
Yeah, so let's say, in theory, that Microsoft started to do this, and you could make arguments that they already have.
You could.
Valve need to do one thing only, and that is to make SteamOS more appealing to people.
Yeah.
And they need to solve that performance problem. If that's with Vulkan, plus improvements to the OS or whatever, they need to do that.
Yeah, because
people won't jump over if they're going to see a huge hit with performance.
I do feel that they kind of stopped pushing it as much as they did.
I haven't heard a word about it since it came out.
No, it seems to have just kind of died by the wayside.
Yeah, and that's not good because, we need a real alternative to Windows.
I mean, honestly,
there isn't one if you want a game.
Well, I mean, you can use SUSE or any other Linux distro, which technically would be the same.
I mean, saying Linux to most people don't even know what Linux is.
Yeah, it's not really the Linux as in you need it, because essentially SteamOS is based on a Linux backbone, but it's the fact that Steam have marketing power. I mean, to be honest, without Steam and a couple of other companies, the PC would have died a death with PC gaming.
Yeah, I mean, I have no doubt that the popularity of Steam and the work that Valve and other companies have done have not only brought back PC gaming from the brink, but also made it rose to the point where it's easily the king in a lot of people's eyes. Like, there was a survey a few weeks ago now, when most developers considering PC the most interesting platform by far as well.
Yeah.
But the PS4 was second, and then the Xbox One was trailing really far behind. But
hey, it was ahead of the Wii U.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, so I don't want to see PC gaming become this closed thing that Microsoft seems to want, because that benefits them and nobody else.
Basically.
So Valve or somebody needs to come with a real alternative to Windows.
I tell you who else that's probably going to worry as well. It's going to be any company, because it basically means Microsoft set a price and they could essentially ask for as much money as they wanted. It also potentially means that we're going to get a much higher licensing fees for PC games, so PC games will become more expensive.
That's what I'm saying, like, PC gaming is what it is because it's an open platform.
Yeah, and basically all you could think of the PC turning into is an Xbox, which is shit.
Yeah, basically a more powerful Xbox that you can also use to make Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, and considering that also means probably bye-bye mods, because that's one of the issues they've had with DirectX.
Yeah.
Because you can't inject a layer into the application at the moment, so basically you can't hook the information that's going between the application and the driver. So because you can't do that, that's why frame rate detection and stuff has been really iffy to do on DirectX 12.
Yeah, and you've probably noticed how coverage of these games has just basically been non-existent because of these issues.
Yeah. So you can't use Fraps, for example, at the moment.
Yeah, like, you have to work hard to record these games. And then, when they don't run well, they don't support VSync properly, or, G-Sync or FreeSync properly. It's just a mess, to be honest. So I don't want this future that Tim is talking about.
No.
I don't think he obviously doesn't want it. He's saying, like, look, we need to be vigilant and watch out because this is what they want. And,
basically.
Valve needs to step up and really improve SteamOS and also push it to people via Steam. Like, every time you logged into Steam, be like, oh, check out SteamOS for free, and just do like a basic guide of how to dual boot or something. So you don't even have to lose any files.
Yeah, I mean, what would be really handy is if you could just plug in another drive into your PC.
Yeah.
So, for example, it could be done via USB.
Right.
Let's just say, for the sake of argument, a pen drive into a USB 3.1 slot.
Uh-huh.
And then you could just click a button in Steam, and it'll be like, test install of SteamOS.
Yeah, so...
And it would install it directly to the pen drive. So all you need to do is boot your PC with the pen drive in there. I think that would be really handy.
Yeah, if they did something like that, and people saw that, oh, all of my Steam games work on this thing, they run just as well, you know, especially with how public these issues with Windows 10 are becoming and the UWP problems, I think you would see a surge if Valve did something like this. And to be honest, if Microsoft start aggressively going down this road, which they might not, you know, it is possible they might not, this is what Valve will probably do, because Valve is a juggernaut these days.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Not a pretty future he painted. Let's hope we don't get there, to be honest.
Yeah, I had to just move Amy's cat there because it was right behind my chair. So I was like, oh, up you go, Bonnie.
She does look very content right now.
Yeah.
So, is there anything else for us to discuss today?
The Vulcan thing shall be up tomorrow. Then I'll be working on the reviews. I've just been really swamped with personal issues at the moment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's never good, never good.
no, but that's one of the reasons I've been a bit slower. Plus other, crap.
Yeah, well...
Plus as well the hard drive failure which happened as
Yeah,
well.
I was going to say, you had a lot on your plate, and also, you've got a ton of reviews and stuff to worry about as well. But yeah, look forward to the interview that Paul did with the Vulcan guys. There's a lot of info, so get comfy, get your popcorn.
Yeah, I was like, these answers are really lengthy. I was really impressed with the...
To be fair, they probably wanted to give your questions proper answers.
Well, they actually really liked the questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They said they were impressed with your questions, so they were like, right, this guy stepped up with the questions. We got to get on the game.
Yeah,
I tried to
avoid the really obvious ones. Like
that's probably why they like them, because they probably hear the same questions all the time. Like, for fuck's
sake, thing that made me very proud is when there was when they said your questions actually made me think about things we hadn't thought of before. I was like, I've made people think.
Hey, you might even influence some changes they might make in the future. You never know. You never know. It could happen. So yeah.
Like they won't agree to interviews.
No. If you email them again in a few months, did you want to do another interview? They're like, right, we've got to set aside a couple of days for this guy.
I know, because I didn't ask one question. It was 21 questions or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous.
they're all really in depth, and they're just there like, oh god,
make it stop!
Make it stop! No.
You thought to yourself, yeah, they must have just started writing the questions out and then realised that they just kept going on and on and on and on and on.
Maybe they were trying to out waffle you. Is that anything that's occurred to you?
I welcome them to try.
You underestimate my power.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty
much.
Well, we are slowly cooking inside this room, so I'm going to call it there. Thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bye.
Yeah.